December 3rd, 2023. This is the HG podcast. This is episode 7. Let's get into our mission statement because we do have some content to go through tonight. All right, our mission statement for Andrew and myself is to provide humble retail investors the latest news, filings, and happenings in the most accurate way possible without compromise. Our safe harbor: we are investors in HUMBL. We are part of the HUMBL community on HUMBL Social 2.0, and we are both passionate about blockchain technology. We are not speaking on behalf of HUMBL. We're not HUMBL employees or contractors. We're not insiders. We're not financial advisors, and we're not compensated in any way. Any reproduction of this podcast without explicit permission is prohibited. If you want to clip it or anything, just let us know. Okay, so let's take a look into last week, what happened. Tuesday, there was a shareholder update, and Wednesday, there was the Santa Cruz wallet. There was also some previously mentioned stuff that we posted about some trademark stuff that I want to get into right away before we touch Santa Cruz. The shareholder update, I believe that video is on Brian's HS2 profile. It's about 45 minutes long. It's great if you want to take a look at that. We're not going to cover it because, well, everything that they talk about is pretty much summarized anyway. They discuss some dilution stuff. They discuss some HUMBL financial stuff and partnerships in Santa Cruz as well. So definitely recommend to take a look at that in the future if you have the time. Okay, so let's talk about the first thing, the HUMBL financial trademark. This is something that we took a look at and made a post the previous week as we didn't have a podcast. It was registered the 14th of November, and something to note on the trademark website is that everything is pretty delayed, and you'll see in the next two slides. It's the case for the next trademarks as well. So it is delayed. It shows up, I think, roughly 6 days later. But HUMBL Financial was first mentioned in January of 2021. So it's been something in the back of everybody's minds. If we look at one of the assets of the trademark itself, that's on the right-hand side. That looks like a very modern interface that would probably coincide with HUMBL Social 2.0 or something like that. And there's some things that kind of give it away. So if you look in the top right, the photo, I know it's a little bit small on this screen, but if you look at the asset and the trademark itself, it is verified by blocks, right? So it has that sort of red check mark. And then the HUMBL Social link, it's kind of a hexagon with an H in the middle is present there as well, which is a modern HUMBL image. So it's interesting that this was filed again. However, if we go back into the initial HUMBL financial news release, which was mentioned in 2021, so it's been a while for that, almost 3 years, right? So it says that HUMBL Financial will soon offer trusted third-party financial services in areas like investments, credit card services, and lending. I think really what we only saw was some third-party things and the ETXs, which I'll get into next. But if you look at the news release, they also kind of compare themselves to Alipay. So Alipay, they have this sort of subset financial play called ANT Financial or ANT Financial. That offers a bunch of products across their Alipay user base. So they have a huge user base, and then they can offer these financial instruments to them. So they kind of, I'm not saying they base it off of there or anything like that, but it was mentioned in the news release itself, which is interesting. And then the first services would be the block indexes and the block exchange traded indexes or ETXs. So Andrew, I'm gonna punt it to you for a moment. Do you remember the ETXs and what do you remember about them?
I just remember that they were supposed to be trading for you automatically. That they would buy and sell on your behalf.
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of ETFs that do that, especially if you look at retirement funds. They're almost called, I think they're called self-balancing. So this was a different way of doing it, but it involved crypto. And if we look at the right image, there's a lot of different things to unpack here. I know it's a mock-up, but why sort of like put in random information if you didn't have intention? But we're not speculating here at all. So the block 3, the 5, and the 10, I think those were present on the original ETFs, and it had to do with sort of like your sweet spot where you wanted Ethereum or Bitcoin or something like that. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong in the chat. There's also, it looks like, some thematic products. So doing some government or some global enterprise, probably being, that's sort of related to an ETF. If you have a group of companies that you want to invest in, you would choose the ETF rather than individually investing in them yourself. The active products, so those are actually based on technicals, right? You have the MAC, the RSI, the oscillators. So that could be more trend lines, which is interesting. A lot of crypto traders use these tools and the technicals to sort of predict where a stock or a crypto would go. And then the multi-asset tokenization, that kind of looks interesting. If you look at the real estate or the, Africa or Middle East, there, if you look in HUMBL's past, there seems to be mentions of all 3 of those areas. So once again, here's the asset on the right hand side. Make of it as you will. Obviously, it doesn't amount to much. It's just an asset and a trademark. But future facing, if you kind of read between the lines, you might be able to see where they're going with this HUMBL Financial. So that's something we posted about a week and a half ago. There was something that I checked last night on the trademark side, and it was the HUMBL Block Exchange Traded Index, or ETX trademark, that was recently pulled in as well. So that was registered November 27th. But as I said, there's usually a delay on these things. So if you check that date, you're probably not seeing that. It was originally registered in 2019 by Block 30, and Block 30 was actually one of the companies that was sort of absorbed into HUMBL before they went public, right? So this one's really interesting as well, right? So HUMBL Financial, if we look at what we just read, ETXs were supposed to be the first service, and they were, and a lot of people used them, and it was actually generating quite a lot of revenue for HUMBL before they were removed from the platform. Now, why they were removed from the platform is that it was a financial, I guess, an offering that wasn't necessarily kosher with the SEC. A lot of companies offered these sort of gray area securities or whatever have you that could be consumed by the public, and they could make money off of it, and a lot of people made tons of money off of it, right? So there was tax implications. The SEC was essentially cracking down on everybody, right, for having these gray area securities. And what they deemed as maybe assets, maybe securities, they didn't even know what they were talking about. So HUMBL pulled them in order to not get, I would assume, sued by the SEC, as many companies did, and had to pay large fines, which likely would have bankrupted us. But that's originally where they came from. So they're also now an updated trademark. So the original news release about ETXs was released in 2021 in April as well. So they announced HUMBL Financial first in January, and then they announced this ETX, or Block Exchange Traded Index. So HUMBL Financial created the block ETX to simplify digital asset investing. Just like Andrew was saying, it's something that you put your money into, and it sort of self-balances. And it's 24/7 too. So we all know the crypto market is 24/7. So to have this asset sort of self-balance for you, and you don't have to really worry about the trading yourself in a 24/7 market is pretty advantageous for any investors. It says it's non-custodial, algorithmically driven software services that allow customers to purchase and hold digital assets and preset allocations through their own digital asset exchange accounts. Yeah, so same sort of thing. Like you're buying it self-balancing, and then this was a big thing as well. So it's open to the licensing of the block ETXs to institutions and exchanges. If we look back in the HUMBL Financial trademark and sort of the news releases surrounding that, there is a lot of third-party things offered in there as well. So they may be able to take things that are packaged and put them in other institutions or whatever have you, or at least that would be possibly an end state look. Pretty interesting stuff. Obviously, with everything that's happened with SBF and CZ and all these exchanges, a lot of this was kind of put on hold because we just didn't know where compliance was. If you weren't complying with the government, they were essentially suing you or shutting you down. So interesting just to kind of bring this up now. BlackRock is now having an ETF for Bitcoin. They're kind of counting down the days on when that's going to be released. It seems like a lot of the bad actors in crypto are, for better or for worse, are under the lens. They're getting sued. They're going bankrupt. Their exchanges are getting shut down. Andrew, do you have any thoughts on that? Like with the way crypto was and how it's going and possibly where the future is?
Some would say that they're trying to get a handle on it to better regulate it to protect the consumer. I think that's all bullshit, and I think that they want to buy it all up first and then sell into us just like they do with regular stocks. But yeah, that's my take on it.
So that's an interesting theory because a lot of people feel the same way, which is why Bitcoin sort of had a massive dip for a couple years now. And then now it's starting to kind of go crazy, is that they've already gained their position. So now they want to let it go, right? And they'll let it fly. I mean, it happened in, if you've seen the movie like The Big Short, where they were able to get a short position. All of a sudden they started evaluating things properly and they allowed housing to crash. It's almost the same thing here, where they dragged down crypto so badly, possibly, right? And this is the theory, is dragging it down so far to the point where they can get as much as possible, and then they put off the selling pressure and they release the brake for it to go up again because they're positioned well. What do you think?
Yeah, that's exactly what I think. You can watch, and China does the same thing, where they make it illegal and then it's not illegal and you can use it for this, but you can't use it for that. And they position themselves better each time.
Yeah, and there's been massive buyings in the past couple of years, quiet or loud, from financial institutions and BlackRock themselves to purchase a lot of Bitcoin in general, and then all of a sudden for them to come out with an ETF and others wanting to come out with registered ETFs and the SEC starting to allow it, it may be the time to take a look at that, right? If they're positioned well and they're willing to let it go, then it's probably going to go because they have the most assets, globally.
China.
Exactly. So interesting that this was registered. I'm not saying that these are coming to light. I would say that Brian and the team have been extremely proactive in their ETXs and in getting them not only published but removed from the app in order to avoid litigation or anything like that. Probably save the company. If they're being proactive about this to see if it comes into something in the future, that'd be great. But it really comes down to compliance and what the government decides at the end of the day, right? They're already dealing with government entities like the Santa Cruz County. So why jeopardize anything, in my opinion, right? Okay, so there was another trademark, and by the way, that one of the assets in here is actually the news release that was posted on April 1st, 2021. So pretty interesting. They're just sort of updating the trademark, but that with HUMBL Financial. Why at this time? Is it just paperwork to get things done in case to be well positioned for future silos of revenue or whatever have you? We'll see what happens. So that another trademark that was done is the HUMBL Exchange Traded Index. It's pretty much the same thing as the previous trademark. So nothing really to read into that. The assets are the same. They're filed on the same date. Nothing really big revolving that. This is the Santa Cruz County app. So this was announced on Wednesday. And we know it's been in works for a long time. Brian and Senior have said that delays or whatever have you, project delays, maybe release delays. It's not necessarily on HUMBL side. There's a lot of due diligence that has to be done on the government side, on their IT side, on their business side, and HUMBL side as well, and getting it approved at both app stores. So it's finally here. The goal of it is to provide Santa Cruz residents with a highly modernized verified platform. Verified platform is really important there for government interactions, transactions, and communications. So all those three things also important: interactions, transactions, and communications. Kind of a big deal. If you look at the app, and I haven't had to actually have the ability to download it because, well, I don't live in the U.S. and I don't think it's available for outside of the U.S. Anything to add, Andrew? Other than like a Canadian national anthem or something? But a lot of the functionality was there in the previous app, but they've either ported it into the new application itself, or they've interfaced with the existing technology. So that's really important. So if you're a software person like myself, if it's not broken, don't fix it. If you already have systems in place that are relatively ease of use for the consumer, the end user, and your staff, if you don't need to change it and it's not costing you drastically a lot of money, or you have plans to migrate it to the application in the future, it makes sense to sort of keep what's working and then migrate it over to the app eventually. Pick your battles with functionality, and then migrate everything over to the common platform. That's very common in software. So I've seen some detractors sort of say it just goes to other links. Yeah, but the other links work, and it's a consolidation in the app, and perhaps it will be consolidated in the app in the future going forward. So pretty standard software development lifecycle stuff there. The next point is surrounding the legislation passed by the state of California. The most important part, and this is like while HUMBL was developing the application with the Santa Cruz County, perhaps they may have influenced this, maybe not. But Santa Cruz County seems to be extremely forward facing and California is one of the more forward-facing states for using technology within their business and their government. But the most important thing is allowing county governments to issue vital records for birth, marriage, and death certificates via verifiable credentials, which can be held in digital wallets and secured by blockchain technology. Now, if you were to take that sentence and compare it to Humble, it seems like, wow, that kind of defines what Brian Foote has been talking about for years. So for having that in state legislation, I think is super important. It allows pretty much all counties to use this technology, and in Santa Cruz being forward thinking in a use case kind of makes sense why they would be first. All right, so the county is also experimenting on this is the app MySCCounty Plus. You can see it in the App Store and the Google Store as well, or the Android store. I don't know. I don't have Android, so. But it says with new blockchain technology in areas such as RV permits within the digital wallet, with the intent to expand on additional use cases that can be benefited from distributed ledger technology and verifiable credentials. So the RV permits are interesting because there's already one on the blockchain, and then it says additional use cases, right? Additional use cases, it really could be anything. Blockchain is just a storing of data. So it's whatever you make of it. But it is interesting if you look at the actual registry on the HS2 website, you can, and let me share that. So here we are. If you look at the actual registry here, you can find bicycles. And I think that's been mentioned in past news releases. But you have Orange County bicycles in here. Like this seems to be something that would just as easily be registered by a user as an RV permit. You'll notice that the RV permits are not in here, but I did see a link from one, so I do have some content on that. Now, what else is in the app? A whole lot. A lot of this functionality was on the previous app, but a lot of it's been consolidated not only in the My Santa Cruz County Plus app, but some of it does offshoot to the previous applications as well before those get consolidated. So I would say the bigger ones are voter registration. It seems pretty huge, and inspection lookups, and I would say Medi-Cal signups as well. Now, new ones that seem pretty future facing. If you look at the old Santa Cruz app, it's pretty antiquated. But charging station locations would be really interesting for anybody if you had an electric vehicle to port that into the application to see where those locations are. Anything you'd want to see in here, Andrew? I mean, the voting stuff seems interesting, but it's just surrounding registration right now. It could be powerful to have voter locations and voting on local issues that may be even local to you in a certain region of the county rather than other people within the region.
Yeah, and as the technology progresses and this is advanced and trust in the platform is built up, I think we'll see a lot more, because you can call a vote, you can decide who votes in a given geographical area, so on and so forth. I think it's going to be a very powerful tool, and trust in the platform is going to be the most important thing, because once you get that, then people will find all sorts of reasons to use it. Yeah,
it's huge. I mean, once there's more adoption on it and people see the functionality, and I mean, it could really be anything. If the county wants to offload, I know a lot of counties or towns or cities or townships or whatever, they use third-party parking applications, right? Like if you already have your information in there for RV parking permits, like to be able to use that for actual parking, say within a paid parking lot, and having a discount because you're a resident, right? Say by like a point of interest or whatever that may be touristy, but you go to, I don't know, support local businesses there. It makes sense that non-residents would pay more to be there than rather residents that already support the infrastructure through their property taxes. So it's a lot of applications. I think the blockchain, just how it stores data, it's literally endless. So with that being said, I'm going to go to the actual RV parking permit, and this is on the blocks registry. So there's a transaction there. You have links for X and the official site, which is interesting. There's a category there, RV parking. So that category, that could be paid parking, right? That could be parking, residential parking permit, where like residents, if you're in a major city, usually you have something, either it's tied to your license plate or you're hanging into your rear view, where you're allowed to park on that street during, say, winter or whatever, or overnight, right? They don't want non-residents parking there because you live there. You should be able to have a parking spot. License plate, obviously, that makes sense. You need to tie to their permit number. It's probably sequential, zip code, and the expiry and the issue. So it looks like that one was good for 4 days in December. So really, really cool stuff, really powerful stuff. You could do this for parking in residential areas, or you could do it in parks. Arguably, it saves a lot of time from the administration perspective, because you're not having to have people to walk around looking for placards or looking at like a ticket saying like, hey, I'm allowed to be here. It's just the license plate, and you're done. You read it from the registry. Hey, this guy isn't expired, so I don't give him a ticket. So that's most of what we have from the news perspective. I don't have anything from AFL. They've been pretty quiet, head down working, it seems. There were some other podcasts that did have content from their CEO, I believe, and he said some wonderful words about HUMBL. So we may look to get him on in the podcast sooner or later, just to talk about the HUMBL technology and how it applies to AFL and sort of his relationship with Brian Foote. But in regards to HS2 updates, if you look at the courses, there's a massive update to that. So you can actually now go through multiple courses. And this is great for anybody that's done online, like learning or e-learning, to go from one chapter to a next, to mark things as completed. And actually, a lot of this adds to your community builder points, if you've seen those in the top of your HS2. So I recommend looking into this video. It's posted by Senior. It says DMs, notifications, live video, and more. It's a great little look at what's new in HS2. We're not going to be able to cover it every week because literally new things are coming out almost daily for what they're changing and what they're updating. So take a look at this. There's some more information surrounding notifications on your DMs and the notifications themselves. And then I believe Senior did mention that the HS2 would sort of go into its own application separate from the wallet for now, until they can integrate both into the one application. We've seen that, I think, at the start of HUMBL Social was a separate app than the HUMBL Wallet, right? So seems to be what their process is segregate a little bit and then combine. So Andrew, anything to add?
Nope.
Okay. Just in regards of our socials, we're no longer posting on HS1, mainly because they're trying to get everybody over to app.humbl.pro. That's the platform that we're using. It's super powerful. I've said this before. It's a pleasure posting on HS2 rather than X or HS1. There's just way more functionality. So if you want to connect with us, if you have questions, you can DM us or you can tag the H2 podcast on HUMBL Social 2.0. or you can join the HC podcast group on HS2 as well. I know that some members of the community now have access to this chat platform. One of them being Mark. He opened up a space or a humble chat rather on Friday. That was pretty good. So we recommend once that functionality becomes available to Pro Plus users that you do open up your own community chats and chat about Humble or whatever you want, really. What do you think about that, Andrew?
Sounds good.
Yeah. All right. So short and sweet this week. We'll be around next week again if there's news. Otherwise, we might do a community call depending on how much content we have. But we look forward to it, and we'll upload this to YouTube afterwards. But of course, it's on HS2 immediately, the recording. So thanks, everyone. Have a great week.